Modern warfare is no longer decided only by bullets or bombs. It is decided by narratives. The side that controls the story controls hesitation, sympathy, outrage, and then ultimately power. Today, I want to talk about a story that has dominated discourse around Balochistan for years. A story so emotionally powerful that questioning it was treated as cruelty. A story built around two words: missing persons. For a long time, this label functioned as a moral shield. Faces on posters, names chanted at rallies, grief broadcast through megaphones and social media feeds. The implication was clear: innocent civilians disappeared by the state. But narratives, like structures built on weak foundations, eventually crack. And in Balochistan, the cracks have become impossible to ignore because something strange kept happening. Men declared missing one month were appearing on the battlefield the next, armed, trained, and actively trying to kill soldiers. At that moment, the story changed. When someone allegedly abducted by the state resurfaces carrying an automatic weapon, we are no longer looking at a human rights case. We are looking at a cover story, a strategic deception. The events of recent months have made this undeniable. On January 31st, coordinated terrorist attacks were prevented through precise intelligence operations. But what followed was even more revealing than the attacks themselves. Many of the militants neutralized that day were not unknown figures. They were already familiar to the public. Their names had appeared on banners. Their faces had circulated on social media. They had been presented repeatedly as missing persons. Now let's stop speaking in abstractions. Burhan, Hafiz, Abdul Hamid, Rashid Baloch. These were names echoed at sit-ins and press conferences. Families stood before cameras. Activists swore these men were innocent civilians. Yet their final appearance was not in a courtroom or a press briefing. It was in fact on the battlefield, weapons in hand, engaged in combat. This was no coincidence. This is no clerical error. This is linkage, a direct, traceable overlap between missing persons lists and militant recruitment rosters. And once you see it, it cannot be unseen. And this pattern repeats. At the Gwadar Port Authority attack in March 2024, one of the attackers had long been promoted as a missing civilian. The same applies to attackers at a naval base. The same applies to militants neutralized in Kalat in 2025. Publicly mourned as victims, privately trained as fighters. This is not chaos, this is method. Globally, security research shows that nearly 70% of insurgent movements misuse human rights narratives to shield their operations. What we are witnessing in Balochistan is that statistic unfolding in real time. But the most disturbing part is not the deception itself. It is who pays the price. Young people, the future. The data released in late 2025 revealed a critical shift. Recruitment has now moved online. More than 80% of new militants are now radicalized through digital platforms, not caves or training camps, just screens. These networks exploit emotional vulnerability, loss, anger, perceived injustice, because research shows that framing violence as revenge for state oppression increases recruitment by up to 40%. And the missing persons narrative is the perfect accelerant. It tells young men, your brother was abducted. Justice requires violence. What they are never told is that the missing brother is already a commander up in the mountains. The good news, however, is adaptation is happening. The intelligence-led operations of January 31st reduced successful terror attempts by more than 60%. But force alone is not enough. Lies must be confronted with exposure. Every time an armed militant is unmasked after being labeled missing, the narrative weakens, which brings us to responsibility. Civil society, activists, international observers. If you publish a list, you own the consequences of that very list. Every name must be evidence-based. Every claim must withstand scrutiny. When a missing person is found wearing a suicide vest, those who vouched for his innocence must answer a simple question. Were you misled or were you complicit? Because the people of Balochistan deserve truth, not curated victimhood that protects terrorists while the entire province bleeds. The mask has slipped, and what stands beneath it is not a victim. It is Fitna al-Hindustan. I'm Dayan Rahmani, and this was Policy Wire.